See if we can do a little better job of actually getting the show started tonight. Apparently, I just did a false start, or I guess what's known in baseball as a balk, by hitting the go live button and then accidentally hitting the finish button. So anyway, we'll see if we can get it a little bit smoother tonight. As you can see, for those of you who are just now joining in, we got about 5 people showing up. As you can see, the guest seat over here, the co-host seat, is actually vacant tonight. And that's interesting because apparently the chicken got to Mr. Lowry last week. That's right. Duke Lowry will not be on Bossier Watch. I think this might be the first time in, what is this, a year and a half nearly now, since October of 2020, that Duke has not been over there in the co-pilot seat. So, we're going to see how this is going to go. You know what? Hello there, Mr. Robert Wright. Glad to have you watching from YouTube. Hello, Ashley Lee Bullock. Good to see you as well. If either one of y'all actually want to join in and co-host here in a little bit, let me know. I had somebody that was going to co-host with me, but that's a whole other story that... I might discuss later on in the show tonight. We may save that for another episode, but my co-host bailed on me. But the good news is, about 7:15 or so, might be a few minutes late, Senator Robert Mills should be joining us for at least a few minutes. He's in between meetings in Baton Rouge and going to dinner and that sort of thing, but he's agreed to join us for a few minutes, and... we're going to be discussing some bills and that sort of thing and some upcoming legislation. And I tell you what, Robert, if you want to hold on for a little bit, let me wait till after the Robert Mills segment. Like I said, he's supposed to be on about 7:15 or 7:20. And I'll shoot you a text message and a link where you can join in. And we'll just try to wing it and see how it goes. That should really be interesting as well. Okay, so most of y'all know the drill. We got about 28 to 30 people watching tonight. The title of the show tonight, episode 95, is Off the Cuff, because I am really, truly doing this off the cuff. I've got some topics here that we're going to discuss, and, we'll just take it and see where it goes from the commentary and all that. Because I'm just making this up as I go. I sat down in my chair about 15 or 20 minutes ago, got back from... doing some tech stuff and all that, and so it's going to be interesting. I'm getting phone calls and text messages now, and we'll go from there. Robert, it can be either one. If you have an iPhone, that would actually be easier. If you have a set of earbuds, that's better, but it's not required. You can also come in from your computer, but it's also better if you have a set of headphones with a mic or something like that, just to help prevent feedback. So your call, just send me a direct text message, or you can keep commenting or whatever, and we'll try to figure this out. It'll probably be the first time we've pulled somebody in as a guest or co-host straight from the comments, so that should be interesting. And, of course, full of apologies the first few minutes tonight, folks, but I also did not post an event listing with any topics today. We're just apparently falling apart at the seams with Bossier Watch, but... we want to make sure that the show does go on tonight. All right. So on our list of stuff is special guest. Again, supposed to be State Senator Robert Mills. He's going to come on, and we're going to discuss some legislation that's might be upcoming. Hello there, Mr. Barry Butler. We're also going to discuss for a few minutes the Barksdale Air Force Base entrance saga. And... I want to field some questions about how you guys think that the judicial candidates did last week. Ali Aiello as well as Doug Stinson. What did y'all think of that? If you weren't watching us live last week, did you have a chance to go back and review that? And also, we're going to have a little discussion about closing Black Bayou. Should it be closed or should it not? And also, I heard this on Keel on my way back to my office in Man Cave. But apparently Dodie Horton's got a bill that's, I guess, maybe generating a little bit of controversy that she's got proposed. And so we'll take a quick look at that, and I want to get some opinions on that. And look, folks, any other topics y'all want to discuss or whatever, it's a free-for-all tonight. Just post them in the comments. If you have my phone number, my cell phone number, feel free to shoot me a text or whatever. Okay, So as usual, we're going to go ahead and do our countdown. There's about 40 of you watching. We'll be back in about 2.5 to 3 minutes. Like I said, State Senator Robert Mills is supposed to be joining us around 7:15-ish. Again, he may be late for a few minutes to discuss legislation, and we'll take it from there. So we will be back here in just a few minutes, about 2.5 or 3 minutes, and we'll get started talking.
You know, they feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
In all honesty, you know, we try to lay low a little bit because of the fear that we would not be able to camp there.
And I titled it "A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys."
Hello, everybody. I don't think I've ever done a video before on here, but yeah, I wanted to tell y'all what frustrates me a little bit about permits.
Cockroach of the week is, drumroll please, Allie Feaster Smith.
We can't be apathetic about what's going on in our state. We have to all pull up our bootstraps and get on top of this. So you're right. There's a problem out there. I mean, and man, you can see it everywhere.
Well, look, we have allowed government to become our wherewithal to everything.
Well, I've not heard my name in stable or Baton Rouge in stable in the same sentence in a long time.
You're about to be killed by a Zamboni, or you're gonna die in 5 minutes.
This Bossier Watch live broadcast is brought to you by Eagle Truck Center, soaring to new heights. The Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. SmarterGeek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. Okay, I'm back. I actually made it through the countdown. And so I've got some commentary going here. Let me try to catch up because I'm trying to do pretty much all of this at one time here. So I've got some comments. Ashley Lee Bullock says, let's not forget about Tommy patting himself on the back for his first year in office. Would that have been around his birthday celebration at Two Johns or whatever I saw on Facebook? Is that what you're referring to, Miss Ashley? Let's see, what else? Who else is watching here? We've got Charlie and Judy East. Of course, Robert Wright is watching, and Barry Butler. Yep. Hey, Barry. All right, so let's kind of get started. Again, we may get interrupted here in a few minutes with Senator Robert Mills. Again, he's supposed to be on and give us some legislative updates, but I want to start off. Let's discuss the Cypress Black Bayou topic. Specifically, Black Bayou. So there are some complaints on Facebook. So let me get a link pulled up here. And I want to show you this, and we'll talk about it and see what you folks think for those of you that live on Cypress or live on Black Bayou. Let's see here. Okay, let me get my screens pulled up. And so basically the premise is, as most of you know, I'm sure around here, we had some pretty pretty good rainfall last night and some pretty good storms and all that, which, of course, have started rising water in most of the properties around here, as well as in the local and area lakes. And so there is a post in the Friends of Cypress Black Bayou group, which their posts are public, so it's fair game to talk about here. Let me get this thing pulled up on my screen. Bear with me. And we'll publish this out back to live mode. There it is. And I know it's a little bit small, folks, so, bear with me, but I'll kind of read this for those of you that are just listening. And so the post is, well, here is another example of complete incompetence at Cypress Black Bayou. This is from Erwin Dilly. For the life of me and trying to figure out why the boat ramp at Black Bayou is open, my dock and several others are either underwater, close to being under. I called, and I'm assuming he called the Cypress Park office, and they said they closed the one on Cypress and 162, but left the Black Bayou open. They said they were monitoring the issue at hand, but it would remain open even with the water continuing to rise. You can't make this up. This is the good part, I am not going to pay another dime to Cypress Black Bayou. Why, you ask? Because it's apparent they only care about your money, landowners. Total incompetence at the highest level at Cypress Black Bayou. Now, look, folks, I got to agree with Erwin that it's complete incompetence at Cypress Black Bayou. You've heard Duke and I rail about them, well, I don't know, for several years now. But the question here is, should they actually close the public lake when yes, it's high, and there's some pictures of this. Let's see if I can find these pictures. I think he posted some photos here. Yeah, here we go. So here's some photos. All right, showing the docks level. And look, I don't own property, obviously, on Cypress or Black Bayou, but as a frequent bass fisherman and all that, I understand and get it, that it certainly can further damage the boards and all that on the docks. But my question is, should Black Bayou actually be closed? All right, because it is a public lake. Now, Erwin down here says, continuing his commentary, boats still continue to run, the boat ramp's still open, water is still rising. It's quite apparent a clown is in charge at Cypress Black Bayou. And that was 2 hours ago. It is very hard for me to argue with that, at least the clown part. But circling back, should the lakes actually be closed? So let me play devil's advocate for a second. I may get some hate mail and hate messages over this, but it's a taxpayer-funded lake. Yes, the property owners around Cypress and Black Bayou that pay your yearly fees and all that, yes, you do help support the lake, but primarily the lake is funded by, 64 out of 80-something precincts across the parish. So should that lake actually be closed, or maybe should they just put an idle-only restriction on the lake? So I want y'all to think about that. And meanwhile, I've got our guest, Senator Robert Mills, who is sitting over here in the green room. Let me see if I can get him on the screen here. Let's see. And we will go from there. So let's see. Yes, Senator Robert Mills. Senator Mills, can you hear me?
I can. Rex, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. And look, I really appreciate you coming on the show with a really last minute notice. Duke is, let's just say, under the weather and not able to make it tonight. And so I reached out to you and figured, well, let's discuss maybe some upcoming legislation or whatever you feel might be important that is going on in Baton Rouge that we need to know about up here.
Well, short notice works fine. With the session in process and just the number of meetings, committees, and early planning sessions going on, we really are jumping from spot to spot. And of course, then today's weather, which came through Baton Rouge much later than Shreveport-Bossier, we had canceled some early morning meetings and pushed them into the afternoon, and that just made the whole thing a little bit tighter after lunch. And so I left the legislative, the senators were all gathered together just a few minutes ago, and I jumped up and left, and I'm just tickled pink to be here, and I'm counting on Duke getting better and everybody living happily ever after.
Well, we hope so too. You know, I think, I don't know if you happened to watch the show last week, but there was some controversy up here with the city council over chickens in the city limits. And Duke actually had a live chicken in his lap on the show. And I'm wondering if he's got like bird flu or something, you know, after having the chicken in his lap, there's no telling. But
How long did that chicken sit in his lap?
almost like the whole show. I think he set it down for a few minutes, but I'm telling you, yeah, he might be chicken crazy or something, because I'm telling you, he had a live chicken, instead of having a dog in his lap, he had a chicken almost the whole show. It was insane.
Everybody's famous.
But in all seriousness, so here's what I want to talk for a few minutes, if you don't mind, about the Barksdale entrance situation, because I know that's kind of a combination of state and federal influence and all that. So I did a little bit of digging and a little bit of Googling, and according to Erin Buchanan, who's a spokesgirl for the DOTD for Louisiana, she said the project is about 90% complete, and they're still anticipating a summer of 2022 completion. And there's an article that I'll link later on with those quotes. But I think the problem might be that while they've got the on-ramps and all that and the roadway going in there completed or nearly complete, I think the problem is there's not going to be an actual entrance to get into the base, which was kind of one of the goals, to give them access to the base, you know, minus some railroad tracks. And I know there was some problem with funding. Do you know anything, and I know I'm kind of catching you off guard here, but do you know anything about that funding or where that sits?
No, I sent a note to Mike Johnson just a couple of hours ago. I got an update from David North, LDOTD, and to kind of walk you through the project. But and this may be old news for you. It has really gone very well. A proud accomplishment by the state of Louisiana using GARV bonds, Bossier Parish, Bossier City, everybody stepping up, helping. And this thing is about an 80 plus maybe $1 million project, on schedule, within pennies of on budget. And I mean to tell you, that was quite an accomplishment. It's a gorgeous piece of roadway. I intend to take a tour of it this coming Friday afternoon with David North, and completion's maybe more realistic, October of 22, but it's a 22 completion, and let me tell you, that's record pace.
Well, yeah, you know, it's right up the road for me, and I've kind of watched them, and you're right, they are going at a record pace. I wish they could do a lot of road construction as quickly as they're doing that. That would be awesome. But what about the entrance though?
Well, of course, neither you or I control the federal government, and we wish we did, but we don't. This project hinges, this entry was required for the base to be able to handle nuclear weapons. And they desperately want Barksdale to have nuclear capabilities instead of having to fly all the way up to Minot to load a bomb and go do their, hopefully just drills. But nevertheless, we've got some work to do inside Barksdale altogether. And I'm not discouraged at all. I mean, we've got as good a connection as you could possibly have with the proper committees in Congress to be able to kind of keep this thing going, not necessarily on schedule, but to keep it going. So I've heard nothing negative that there could be an issue with the funding. You almost assume there's going to be an issue with the funding. That's just a given. Right. But I've heard that there's no threat to the project. The federal government will respond when military requests it and puts the thumb down on it. We've got a 4-star general at Barksdale that wants this to happen, and there's just a very few of those in existence. And so I feel very comfortable it'll happen. I'm not worried about that. We know it's never going to happen, on the time frame that we'd like if the federal government's involved, but that's just a part of the deal. Louisiana proud, we did our job.
Right. Well, and I think it was just kind of a surprise to everybody when we read in the news that I think Channel 3 had an article last summer or whatever that originally I think the Air Force or whatever, Department of Defense or whatever had predicted it to be like a $12 million project, and then that price tag jumped up to $36 million, and I don't know, maybe the cost of lumber or COVID, I don't know, whatever the situation was, it jumped up because they have to have extra security measures in place for those entrances and all that. But it's kind of one of those deals where appropriating money and then the check actually being in the bank and having the ribbon cutting and starting construction are entirely different things. And I think that's what I've been getting a ton of messages about this, and I think that's what a lot of folks are worried about. We're going to kind of have a little bit of a road to nowhere, really nice road to nowhere they did in record time. So,
Well, there's no question. We've got a road to nowhere, and it's a beautiful road. And like I say, we did our part. We don't have enough control over the federal government, but I think everybody up and down the chain wants this to happen. And I assure you that if the administration and the high up at Barksdale puts the hammer on this thing, it's going to get done. I don't feel threatened at all about it. It's going to be a great development. I've got a schematic of the entranceway. It's going to be very, very effective in protecting the base as well as opening the base to an unrestricted access, which is required to be able to handle those nuclear bombs. Which, that's not necessarily what you want in your backyard, but it's kind of what I want in my backyard. If I've got B-52s and everything else there, let's go ahead and
put the big stuff there. Absolutely, put the big guns out there. Okay. And look, I agree with you completely on that. So, all right, I'm going to switch gears slightly, just a little bit. And I know you're limited on time, so if there's something you want to speak about, just.
I'm good now.
Okay.
Thank you. I've got as finished up as I could, and I'm going to go ahead and take special time to visit with you guys. I appreciate it. And thank you for letting me on.
Well, thank you for that too. All right. So switching gears just a little bit, but right down the road is I-20 itself. And again, I know this is, federal and state combination deal, but here we go again with I-20, and we all know how much we love I-20 through Bossier City and into Shreveport. And of course, well, we thought it was going to cost this, but whoops, all the bids come in for, 25% more or whatever it was, and now that's put on hold. Any word legislatively or anything like that on the status of the I-20 upgrades and reconstruction?
Well, that's not at this point a legislative issue. It's 100% an issue inside of LDOTD. And as I understand it, they redesigned the roadway section, the work to be done, and they expect to put that out for bids very soon, quite honestly. And I think there's no question there's severe pressure on Department of Transportation to get it done, and it's probably 8 years overdue what it is. And I'm on it every day. You probably are too. And it's not even entertaining. It's sad to watch the truckers when they come through that weren't prepared for the condition of the road, the out-of-state people that there's just no telling what they think. I'm embarrassed by it, and we all are. And it's going to be pretty uncomfortable even during the fix, but I think we all just better hold our tongues and, take the pain of the inconvenience, because obviously it's got to happen, and it is going to happen. I'm very confident we'll be seeing some work done on that here in the future, and surely during calendar 22.
Okay, and of course I'm on a road kick apparently today. What about Jimmy Davis? Any more word or any updates on that?
Well, I keep talking about things that aren't in my district. I've got all of Bossier Parish, but Bossier City. So I'm working on hearsay in some areas, but I try not to pass along rumors that I haven't actually gotten some background on. Jimmy Davis Bridge is progressing. I understand there's a meeting Friday at the port where Shreveport City of and Bossier City of and a lot of people involved with the Jimmy Davis Bridge will be in a meeting. And I think I don't know, I hadn't seen it, but I think the agenda is to have LDOTD really make a pitch to the two cities to try to get unanimity about taking over the existing structure after the new structure is completed. I think DOTD is convinced they want to build a brand new 4-lane structure and completely abandon the existing structure. And I think the project hope is that they will have Shreveport and Bossier City take possession of and responsibility for the what they call historic Jimmy Davis Bridge. I call it old. They call it
Right.
historic.
Yeah, I've heard some rumors of turning it into a walking bridge or, bicycle bridge or something like that. So I don't know. We'll see. I would say, yeah, they probably need to build a new one and get rid of the other one. But we'll see how that
I'll
goes.
pay you extra. I'll pay you extra, Rex, if I don't have to walk across that thing.
Exactly. I'm not scared of many things, but walking across that bridge might be one of them.
I
Okay.
got no interest in that.
All right, and so we've got a couple of questions in the comments, so I'm going to throw these out there. A good friend of ours, David Womack, good friend of the show, wants to know, and I know this, or correct me if I'm wrong, this is primarily the House's responsibility, but he wants to know a timeline on redistricting. So maybe you might could give us just a quick overview of how that works and what the Senate's responsibility is in redistricting.
Well, we did what we were originally asked to do, and the legislature, House and Senate together, performed and drew maps that we feel like, we being the majority of the House and the Senate, we feel like conforms to all the existing law. As to the congressional map, the governor disagreed and said that it does not conform, and he vetoed that one map. And it comes back to us now for reconsideration, to be redrawn if we think that's right, to be resubmitted if we think that's right, to be, it's in our hands at this point in time to go back to the governor, or we can override his veto. And there will probably be a specially called override session. The date's been talked about internally to be sure we comply with everything, but I think we'll adjourn the legislature, Senate and House, on a late weekday, Thursday or Friday, and we will probably go into a special session called for the purpose of vetoing, overriding the governor's veto over the weekend, and then go back into a regular legislative session later that week. All speculative at this point, nothing's firm. And I could not tell you if we were going to be successful in the override. We hope so. We wouldn't call it if we didn't think we could do it. But we've been to this dance before, as you recall. It wasn't that long ago. So as to the congressional map, but again, we hear that the Democratic Party, national, and some interest groups, national, intend to litigate that map almost no matter what happens. And so it's eventually going to go to, I believe, a state court. And potentially the state court can redraw the map or suggest it or whatever. And it may end up going to federal court someday. And it may end up, getting some, some further eyes on it in Washington. But I've never been in this position before. I'm listening to what's being said, but there's some speculation about the exact process. And we're looking closely at the laws that apply to this to be sure that we follow those laws. So now the House and the Senate maps are different. That's Louisiana State House, Louisiana State Senate were different. The governor did not veto those maps. They went to his desk, and a private, basically, lawsuit has been filed from interest parties against those two maps, saying that they don't comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act. And so that lawsuit will hold up those maps, will be heard hopefully in a state court, and a state court will rule that they do or don't comply to the Voting Rights Act. And if they do, maybe we'll be able to keep them. There could be further litigation on those too. We are in very litigious times, and it would appear the Democratic Party on a national basis is content to go to court on just a lot of things right now.
Yeah, seems that way. Okay, so speaking of voting rights and litigious and all of that, let me find this comment from Barry Butler. So our good friend up here, Barry Butler, is a former police jury guy and a member of the Bossier Republican Committee and all that. Anyway, he says, can we get a bill that will allow our legislators to examine the software of any voting machines that we purchase? Because as you know, there's a lot of contention over the voting machines and all that, and that whole process these days. So any feedback on that?
I don't know is the only honest answer I can give you, but I can tell you that the commission that's closely involved with the selection of the machines is very capable and I think empowered to request information, including some detailed information. Now, you may get into proprietary information that the vendor doesn't want to disclose. You're getting into a very tough area where I would suggest it might be very hard to get a peek inside the curtain of what goes on inside that vote. And that answer is scary. I understand that. Why is it not transparent? Well, there is proprietary information in there, and there are complex programs. And why is that? I don't even know. You would think it's either a yes or a no, a one or a two, and it would be a pretty darn simple machine that could do that. So I'm not on that commission. I can't tell you that I fully understand the details of that. Barry's a real smart guy, and he could probably give our commission and commissioner some advice on that. And I would suggest he do that, in fact. But I really can't answer that.
Oh, good enough. Well, as a little bit of advice from a constituent, if you're ever asked about that, I would suggest that you look into open source software, because in my opinion, it should be open source and able to be peer reviewed. That's one of the problems with proprietary software is, well, you literally can't view the code, and not that you or I would necessarily be able to look at the code and see exactly what it does, but open source tends to lend itself to better peer review, but that's a whole other conversation. All right, I'm going to scroll down through the comments here, and let's see. Our good friend David Crockett says the elephant in the room is always, what is Governor Edwards going to veto? Yeah.
I can't predict the weather or that.
Right, exactly. And Barry Butler followed up with, the machines are just counters. Just like you said, it really shouldn't be terribly difficult. Okay. I got another question for you, and you may or may not be aware of this bill, but you're always, upfront and honest with your answers to us and all that. So have you seen this bill? I heard this on Keel Radio when I was headed back to the house and to my office in Man Cave a few minutes ago getting ready for the show, so this is kind of last minute, but Dodie looks like she's got a bill going forward on the House side that's HB 837. And it's being dubbed by some in the media the Don't Say Gay bill, similar to that Florida legislation you may have seen in the national news. Have you seen that bill yet, or have, obviously it's on the House side right now, but at some point it may end up going, to the Senate side. Have you seen that bill yet, or have any opinion one way or the other on that?
I've not seen the bill. I've seen her comments in some of the print media about the bill, and it sounds to me like it's a pretty solid takeoff of the Florida bill of similar nature. And I've heard Dodie talk about it being a guideline by which we should and shouldn't teach our children sex education. And that is a very delicate area, to say the least. I think it's one that warrants conversation. Why would we be scared to talk about? Don't we want sex education in our schools? Who should and who shouldn't conduct sex education? I mean, my golly, I think that's fair game. And I have not seen Dodie's bill, but I support Dodie, and I support the conversation. I'm not scared of talking about sex education. I'm not scared of giving my views towards a gender confused person teaching our younger children. My God, you've seen the news articles lately. Right. I'm just discouraged as hell about some of the people that we allow to teach some basics to our children. I'm embarrassed about that. Somebody needs to step up and risk being inflammatory, risk hurting somebody's feelings, to say that that's just not what this society, and particularly Bossier Parish, is interested in doing. And so I've got no problem with Dodie, picking this up as a gauntlet and run through it. And hell, good luck.
Yeah, well, just the little bit that I read about it in the 5 minutes before I started the show, it's right now it's a relatively simple bill. It's only like 6 or 7 total lines. I mean, so it doesn't seem to me to be super controversial, but I'm sure it's going to spark some controversy along the lines, and
Oh, sure. Yeah, it will.
It may get changed here and there, and may make it through committee and all that process or not. We'll see, but. Anyway, okay, so what's new with you, and what's new with, with the Senate district up here? Anything that our folks need to be aware of that's, maybe coming down the way in Baton Rouge or anything like that, or what news have you got to share with us?
Well, really, life is good in Northwest Louisiana. We don't have a lot of the same problems that other parts of the state do with the storms and the tragedies that have been plaguing South Louisiana. We're not immune to being affected by those, and obviously, we even had a class 1 hurricane come through northwest or northeast Louisiana not too long ago. But let me tell you, the devastation of South Louisiana's a real serious long-term problem. And the federal government has kind of run off and hid a little bit on Southwest Louisiana. And they kind of went to the newest storm and just said, let's worry about this one with Ida. Well, so here comes New Orleans getting all the breaks, and poor old Lake Charles getting left in the mud again. And so we've really got a problem with the federal government there. That's affecting flood insurance. It's affecting homeowners insurance. It's affecting everything, and we're not through paying bills. It's going to be a long slog for that. But quite honestly, great news. We've got a new sawmill being built in Taylor, Louisiana. There's been a severe shortage of lumber mills in North Louisiana. They've been having to haul logs all the way down to Chopin and at Royal Martin. So we've got a new mill under construction in Taylor, just east of Minden. We've got a new mill announced and in process of, getting towards construction in North Bossier Parish, just south of Plain Dealing. Again, a great pine trees, commercial pine trees are the largest cash crop in the state of Louisiana. And we've had a severe shortage of places to take the lumber. And so this will really help over time. That's really good news. So much of the conversation we've had lately has been about high tech, the corridor between Ruston and Shreveport, and the consortium with Louisiana Tech and CIC, and that is no question good news. There's nothing but good news going on along the I-20 cyber corridor, and General Dynamics, GDIT, the Louisiana Tech Research Institute, or LTRI. Rex, have you been to the LTRI building? Have you gotten a chance to go by there?
No, I hadn't yet.
This is remarkable. I think I'm okay to say all this. I've had a tour. Well, I'm not worried about your permission. I was worried about Craig's phone.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true.
This building is almost entirely top secret, and I learned that there's several layers of top secret, and they even have areas of the building called top secret compartmentalized, where people with the highest top secret security, only a limited number of them can be in the same room at the same time. I mean, wow. What do you think those people talk about when they get together in one of those top secret compartments? What in the world do we have going? It's remarkable what they're building over there, and that was a real add. And we've got some great stuff going on with the Cyber Innovation Command, with the Louisiana Tech Research Institute, and job after job awaiting graduates that we're speeding up through, through the tech program. LSU Shreveport's got some great cyber programs, and so that's a real bright spot for Bossier Parish and even parts of Webster Parish. And of course, the new gate at Barksdale turns Horton into, a Barksdale neighborhood. I mean, so this whole reconfiguring Barksdale back into an I-20 front door is remarkable for Bossier Parish. It's going to really light up parts of I-20. So there's great things going on, and of course we're still, good golly, try to drive down Airline and Benton Road. I mean, there's a lot of people out spending a lot of dollars. Sales tax collections are still, I don't know where all this money comes from, but they are still throwing money around left and right. Of course, they're spending a lot of it on gasoline, and
Sure.
that's a relatively short-term situation, I think, and we'll see a more normal type of price on gasoline here in the coming times. But the oil and gas sectors are perking up. The natural gas, of course, with Haynesville Shale, we've got 44 rigs running. It's blowing and going. So no, you don't have to look far before you really realize that, even though you look at the national news and you may just get depressed, there's some really good stuff going on in North Louisiana. Home building, developments. It's blowing and going in Bossier Parish, and I just don't see anything that's going to get in the way of it.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point with the high gas prices. On one hand, the high gas prices hurt us all as consumers at the pump, and hurt small businesses too. But on the other side, our economy in Louisiana is largely dependent on the price of oil. And so, there's a mitigating effect of it helping the oil and gas industry when those prices are escalated somewhat, even though it hurts, the rest of us at the pump. And I think a lot of people forget that. So.
Yeah, we're really more natural gas oriented
Right.
nowadays, with the Haynesville and with the LNG plants down south. West Texas and some other areas, North Dakota are truly oil rich. We're gas rich. We're natural
Right.
gas rich, which is great long term.
Absolutely is. Now, okay, so I've got a question that was sent to me. So speaking of the growth and all that for Bossier Parish and the surrounding areas and all that, but and I've gotten this question from multiple people in the last couple of weeks, where some folks are concerned that we have basically zero, reading this quote, zero DOTD projects. And so is there a fight going on for capital outlay projects or lack thereof for North Louisiana? It's always the argument that it seems like everybody I-10 and below get most of the capital outlay stuff. What's going on as far as capital outlays and things, in the northern part of the state where we are experiencing some growth up here?
Yeah, well, the growth is pretty isolated, quite honestly. But our problem in North Louisiana, I'm not talking Bossier Parish. Our problem in North Louisiana, the big picture, is that we have so many people, so many existing roads, so many existing bridges that need maintenance, need replacing, and relatively so few people as compared to the populated parts of the state south of I-10, that yes, we have for 20, 30, 40, 50 years been being left behind. And it's very, very severe. I'm living on faith, and we've got a little better group of people. We got a lot better group of people in Baton Rouge than we've had in years past. And I'm living on faith. If we put good projects out there that have an economic benefit return, that we will get them funded. I mean, you look at the big project in Horton with the 157 3227 redesign. That really we're going to get over the top of that. That's going to be a great project that turns into supporting hundreds of homes being built, lots of commercial development. We got that turned around, not quick enough, but quicker by a couple of years really than what the Baton Rouge folks would say is normal. And so those folks in Horton have done a great job getting ready to put that project together. Bossier Parish has, golly, they have stepped up and put their own money where their mouth is. They have built roads. They have done work. They've made it to, they've really shamed the state into doing some things. And, they've spent a lot of money to do it. And if we put good projects out there, and I won't name them, I could tell you some parishes that just don't do a good job of thinking ahead and putting projects out that we can get behind. Bossier Parish and Bossier City, I will tell you, has done a good job of doing that. They've learned how to posture themselves in Baton Rouge. They've got a lobbyist that helps us spread this message, and we'll never have as much attention from Baton Rouge as we want, but we just have to keep working every day to do that. And we have to keep a line of communication open with the administration, regardless of who it is. And you don't have to like them, but you do have to talk to them.
Right.
And my goal is to be able to defend my principles of liberty, of conservatism, be careful with the dollars, and and be able to ask for those things that deserve attention. And there's stuff working I can't talk about right now that where we've really our delegation. Bossier Webster Parish has stepped up and done the right thing. And I've got a meeting tomorrow with Commissioner of Administration Jay Darden on a project, and where we just stepped up and did the right thing, and it made some people mad. But we're going to take care of our business. We're going to take care of our people, and we're doing that.
Okay. Well, look, I appreciate all of the updates and you answering some questions and kind of filling in. What is it, about 7:48? So if you don't mind with all that said, I mean, you can stay a few minutes longer if you want, but I'm going to bring in another guest here in about 5 or 10 minutes. But anytime you want to, be on the show and give us some updates and more information, then just text me or Duke or whatever, and we'll be glad to have you on. I really appreciate you taking the time this evening.
Well, thanks. It's enjoyable for me, and it's a shame after the COVID event. We didn't see anybody, we didn't do anything, and
Right.
Shame. And thank you guys for staying aware and asking the tough questions. And call me anytime. And let's see, here we are, gosh. In 22, we'll be talking about some other political races here in the near
coming
future.
up pretty quick.
And I've been real careful not to talk about mine because I couldn't tell you what Senate District 36 is going to look like.
Yeah, that may change, so you never know.
Yeah, it could change, and I've been out of consideration to everybody and everything. I've not said a whole lot about that, but
Right.
we'll be able to talk about that here for too long, and be glad to do that. And look, best wishes for Duke and his health, and for you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. And, of course, the same goes to you. And like always, you've been a great guest to have on several shows. And you don't mind the questions and giving good, solid, honest answers. And, hey, that's all we can ask for. So,
look, I'm elected to do this. I'm proud to serve. And there's no question that's not fair game. Just ask away.
all right. We appreciate it. Have a good evening. Go enjoy dinner if it's dinner time now for you or whatever. And appreciate all the hard work.
Thank you, Rex. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay, folks, so I think that went relatively well. He, I think, did a good job answering some questions. May not have been the answers we wanted to hear. And look, we've said before, I think the first show that we had him on well over a year ago, I didn't vote for Senator Mills, but I think as it's turned out, he's ended up being a fairly decent senator. And look, he doesn't mind the questions. Whenever he's on the show, he's never said, well, hey, this is off limits or anything like that. He's just, hey, ask me what you want. So, all right, I'm going to try here real quick. Let me see how this is going to work. If I can I think we may try to see if we can have Mr. Robert H. Wright on the show. Let me see if I can get him a text message over there. And he had never been on the show before, if I remember correctly. So I'm going to send him a text message. We're going to see if this is going to work out with the software and all that. We hadn't even practiced this. So, Robert, I think you're still watching. I just shot you a text message. You want to click that link, allow it to have access to your camera and your microphone, and, well, we'll just see how this turns out. If it doesn't work, I'll just keep rambling here for a little bit, and we'll figure out some other topics. Okay, folks, so yeah, in the comments, and I appreciate the questions that y'all have for Senator Mills in the comments. Let me know in the comments, what did you think of his answers, especially the one about the capital outlay projects. That's a thing that we hear from a ton of people is, well, there's zero capital dollars coming back up north, and you know, what's our local delegation doing about it? And they're not asking for money and all that. I'd like to point out that our good friend David Womack says Shreveport-Bossier receives the second most DOTD dollars, only behind the Alexandria district. And I'm not doubting you, David, but if that's true, that's very interesting. Ashley Lee says, maybe Texas will annex us. They have great roads. We all know it's better once you cross the Texas state line there for the most part. Okay, so I'm going to pull up on the screen here in just a second Dodie's bill. And I'm not picking on Dodie about this at all, because, you know, Dodie and I get along great, and I think she's been a pretty good state rep for us over in District, let's see, what is she in, District 9? But I want to pull this up because I did see it. Let's see here. Okay. So this is House Bill 837. Let me reset this here where we can see all of this, and we'll see if Mr. Robert Wright can come in on the interview link. Let me resize all this. I'm trying to monitor comments, think of something to actually talk about, and do this at the same time. But as you can see, the bill's actually not very long. Sexual orientation, gender identity, prohibited instruction, discussion. A, no teacher, school employee, or other presenter shall cover the topics of sexual orientation or gender identity in any classroom discussion or instruction in kindergarten through grade 8. And then B, no teacher, school employee, or other presenter shall discuss his own sexual orientation or gender identity with students in kindergarten through grade 12. Now that, I see that kind of interesting where she says his own. What about, you know, what if it happens to be a lesbian teacher? Let's just be honest. So that kind of strikes me as a little interesting that we're assigning, you know, his to that. And look, I'm not into the whole, you know, gender pronoun identity thing. To me, it's a him and a her. But that's kind of interesting the way that's worded. So y'all check that out. Again, it's HB 837, House Bill 837, the 22 regular session. I'll try to remember to put a link to that in the comments here in a few minutes. But check that out. Give us your opinions on that. You know, we've discussed the school board issues and things going on with the school system quite a bit. And let me see here if I can get Mr. Wright on. As a matter of fact, folks, hold on a second. Let me call him, see if he's going to be able to join us. Technical moment. Again, it's a live show. We're doing it on the fly, so. Hey, did you get the link? No, I sent it by text message. Are you coming in by computer or are you coming in by phone? You want me to email it to you so you can come in by computer? On your computer? Hold on just a second, folks. All right, I'll shoot you that by email. You'll have it here. Let's see, Robert H. Wright. Yeah. What's your email address? I got you. Yeah, I got you. The AOL one. I'm running a Mac. Okay. But it doesn't matter. You can come in from Windows. It doesn't matter. All right, so I'm going to shoot this to you. Subject show link. Okay. All right, folks. The joys of doing a live show literally on the fly and kind of making this one up as I go. All right, so we're going to try to have Robert H. Wright on. He's been involved in politics around the area for quite some time. He is also on the, let's see, Republican Executive Committee. I think he's on the State Central Committee. I think he still is. So if we can get him on, that'll be kind of interesting. We'll try and see. John Glover says, hello, Miss John. Good to see you commenting on the show. Says maybe it should read him or her. That way all is included. Very interesting comment. All right. where was I? Let's see. I think we've pretty much covered most of the topics that I had. So let's talk for a minute about the Stinson and Alia Yellowstall race. How many of you, and just let me know in the comments, how many of you have early voted? Because I think early voting ended this past weekend. So how many of you take advantage of early voting? How many of you are doing mail-in votes? And how many of you, well, didn't early vote and are going to have to go to the polls? And who do you think did the best in that discussion between both of them? Now, obviously, there were some comments that they, questions that they really couldn't answer because of the judicial canons and all that. But who do you think did better? Do you think they were pretty much a tie? What do you think? So let us know in the comments. And let's see what else. So we're trying to get Robert in. We're going to give him another few minutes, and we'll see how it goes. Let me check my notes here real quick. Nothing happening in the city council. I think their next meeting is not until next week. There was a little bit going on with some of the police jury stuff, but honestly, I hate to say it, it's kind of a slow week. So a good week for Duke to be under the weather and out of pocket. Barry Butler, let's see, David Johnson says just over 6,000 early votes in Bossier Webster. That's pretty good turnout from what I remember. Barry Butler says he'll vote on election day. Yep, I forgot to early vote Mr. Barry, so I'm going to have to do the same thing as well. Mr. Ronald Cheatham, good to see you again, commenting on another show. He says we early voted. Okay, so early voting has its advantages. You don't necessarily have to be here on election day, obviously. All right, and so Ashley had made a comment earlier about Tommy Chandler, promoting himself and all that. I guess it was on KSLA. Let me look and see if I can find that. So let me hear some comments as well. Did any of you see Tommy's... what Ashley said, patting himself on the back earlier today? I'm going to go see if I can find that. Honestly, I hadn't watched it yet. Look, the truth is as y'all know, we haven't been exactly friendly to Tommy Chandler the last several months here. We were definitely behind him, in the Three Amigos time period, but things have kind of, I hate to say it, but spiraled, fizzled, I don't know. And then, this whole deal of we've got tons of public information requests in, and we're maybe not exactly getting a runaround, but let's just say they're trying to zigzag the football a little bit on some of these information requests. That does fall under the city attorney's purview, but Tommy Chandler is the custodian of records, so the buck actually stops with him. And it just seems like on some of this stuff we're getting the runaround, getting delayed, and so and some of the other things that Tommy ran on, we're not seeing a whole lot of progress on that front. And as a matter of fact, we're seeing exactly the opposite on some of that. All right, so I'm going to give Robert just a couple more minutes. If he's not able to come in and join us, then we'll go ahead and start wrapping up the show from here, because honestly, I don't have a whole lot to talk about tonight. And I think Senator Mills, like I said, he did a pretty good deal. David Jones. Oh, hello, David Jones. Let's see. David Jones says, watch the Jimmy Davis Bridge nightmare. Let me put this comment up. Our good friend, ex-councilman David Jones says, watch the JD Bridge nightmare. Who would want a bridge park with no plan, no ADA issues defined, no parking defined, no use defined, and who will pay to have it torn down? Next generation. Kind of holding the new one hostage. I want to know about, was it the bats or the birds that were under there? Which one was it? The bats are out at the ball field. What kind of bird? Was it some kind of swallow or something like that on the bridge, and that was one of the delays for getting rid of the bridge? Am I imagining that, or is that correct? Did they get rid of the birds, or what are they going to do? So let's see here. Let me see if I can pull this up. Yeah, it was birds. Always birds. Does anybody know, did they get rid of the birds? Did they actually do something about the birds? Or are they just ignoring the birds now and they're able to do all this barn swallows? As if there aren't enough barn swallows around. Let's see. Tell you what we'll do. Again, we're giving Robert Wright a few more minutes. Let me pull up this article from KSLA. And I'm going to pull it up on the screen here. And let me do a little reset here. Reset the crop. There we go. Okay. And let's do a little resize. And we'll kind of review this article here for a second. Let's see. Let me resize this. Make it easier for everybody to read. Okay, here we go. So, again, I'm just kind of scanning down for folks that are listening, not necessarily watching. This is on KSLA's website. Mayor Tommy Chandler reflects, if I can talk, on 1 year since being elected. He's excited. More people, businesses moving to Bossier. He's focused on new projects like Surge Entertainment, the new Jimmy Davis Bridge. Oh, see there? Soothsayers here. We've been talking about that for a while. Traffic flow, shows coming to the Butcher's Grocery Arena, and keeping Sportran out of South Bossier. Those are the projects that he's working on. He didn't actually say that, folks. But he does say he's very focused on getting the new permanent police chief for the department after the debacle of trying to fire, get rid of, whatever you want to term it, with Shane. And he says 5 candidates took a test, and before they took the test, I interviewed each one of them. Administered the test Thursday. Once he gets the scores from Baton Rouge, he can select a new chief. Oh, wait, he does say, looky here, he also says he believes Sportran will be coming to South Bossier. This proposition was originally met with a lot of confusion from the city council. The confusion was the mayor's office, not the city council. So the question is, Tommy, did you decide to, welcome Sportran in or not? Originally you did, now you didn't. I mean, that's where the confusion set in. All right, so he says, we're still in contact with each other, with De Niro, who's the CEO of Sportran. We're talking over stuff. We're trying to make the safety of the citizens, the routes, get it all together. When asked if he believed this was something that would be passed, Chandler was optimistic. Quote, oh yeah, we need a bus service, so that's going to happen, yes. Okay, so we were for it, then we were against it, or not necessarily for it, and now it's going to happen, yeah, based on the safety of the citizens. Okay, never a dull moment with Mayor Tommy. I noticed he didn't mention anything about the CAO debacle. He didn't mention anything about the Shed Road and, the roundabout situation and any of that, and the new causeway that they're building. And he didn't mention any of that. You're right, Ashley. It was just a cheerleading session. I mean, I wouldn't expect him to do that, but he could have at least mentioned it. Let's see. David Jones says, concerning the Jimmy Davis Bridge, bridge is proposed to be design build, no straight up. Okay, so they're going to do a design build kind of like they did the Barksdale overpass and all that on 220, I guess. Let's see. David Leslie says, I'm just going through comments and questions here for a minute, folks. So if you got some questions or comments, feel free. David Leslie says, so the state wants to turn the old Jimmy Davis Bridge into a pedestrian park. What the heck is that? I don't know. Are they going to put nets under the bridge to catch the people falling through? What's the deal? Is there another pedestrian bridge? I mean, that's a long bridge. That's a long walk uphill and down. I mean, I'm in relatively decent shape, but I'm not sure I want to walk over that. You're right, Ashley. He was definitely patting himself on the back. There's no doubt about that. All right. Well, folks, let's do it this way. So we've been on about an hour, and, we did have, like I said, a good interview with Senator Robert Mills. Look, I got to be up front and honest. We were supposed to have another guest on, and part of me wants to mention who he was because he knew that he was supposed to be on. We had a discussion about if you didn't have good cell service, I got a phone number you can call in and all that sort of thing. We were going to go even further in depth about the Barksdale situation. he bailed at the last moment. And fortunately, to Senator Mills' credit, he came on at the last minute, always a stand-up guy, and answered some questions about Barksdale and all that. So again, I certainly appreciate that. But my other guest, enjoy the trip on the East Coast. All right. So with that said, folks, if you unless you got some more questions, doesn't look like Robert Wright's going to be able to come on, and that's Robert H. Wright. So we'll go ahead and start wrapping it up for this evening. We've got about 60 people watching, and that's been really good. We appreciate everybody that watches. I'm not sure if Duke's going to be in shape to be on next week. We'll see about that. If not, I'm going to have another guest host lined up, and we'll go from there. As always, if you've got some information you want to share with us, Bossier Watch at protonmail.com. Set up your own free Proton Mail account. Don't put any identifying information in it, and feel free to send an email to us. And we certainly take a look at those. As a matter of fact, I've got 3 or 4 in there right now about the city council and also about First Church. You know, we did go into those lawsuits that are pending a little bit, and so some folks have emailed us some more information about that. We did get those emails. We're taking a look at them before we move forward with any about that on the show. So we do appreciate it, and we do look at that when you send the emails. Before too long, at bossierwatch.com or bossierwatch.org, doesn't matter. You can go to either one. We're going to start doing some longer form content as well, some articles. And so kind of keep an eye out for that. I'm going to put up a email form where you can submit your email, get on the news list and all that sort of thing. We're not going to go into straight news reporting. Again, like we've said from day one, if you're new to the show, we're certainly amateur journalists. We've just got some political backgrounds and all that. And we like to report on things that we feel are important for you folks to know and put our spin on it as well. So we are certainly a little biased, and we don't claim otherwise. But anyway, we appreciate all of y'all watching. Stay tuned. We will be here again next week, same time, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. We might do a Thursday one. If you get the notification, click over and watch. That will be on the Louisiana Watch side. The mayor's race in Shreveport is going over there. It's gotten interesting since Mario's gotten in, and we'll see Tom Arsenault's in, and there may be a couple of others. We're going to double check, and we'll report on that on the Louisiana Watch side. And we'll just keep moving forward. We appreciate you guys watching. See y'all next week. Same time, same place.